Justice for Casey.
Justice for Casey!
Pamela, I have to ask, what went through your mind when you heard the verdict?
Thank you, Jesus. It's over. Finally, he has to stand accountable for what he did to Casey.
Now, one of the counts, we don't know what's going to happen next. What would you like to see with that murder charge?
You know, honestly, I would still like to see the murder charge pursued. And I would still like him to be convicted of murder because at the end of the day, that's what he did. He murdered Casey on December 4th, 2020. So he should be convicted of murder. But we are equally as happy that there's a conviction regardless because he's guilty.
Does it give you pause at all that this has been the second jury that has returned a mistrial on murder charges?
I just think that we have people with different ideas and different ways of seeing things. And so, you know, everybody has their own opinion, different ways of looking at things, and it just didn't line up with each other. And that's okay. But we got what we were supposed to get.
What did the last 5.5 years been like for you?
You know, a roller coaster of emotions, of course. You know, we were in trial, mistrial. We wait for years, continuance after continuance. Jason Meade got to be at home with his family for 5.5 years with no accountability on a $250,000 bond. So, you know, it's been a roller coaster of emotions for me and my family. But we stepped fast, we kept our faith, we kept praying, and we kept leading in love and light.
What message do you hope that the guilty verdict sends to other families out there also still waiting, you know, for justice and closure and their day in court?
Prayerfully it gives them hope because, you know, as we see here, we are getting accountability. So hopefully it gives them hope that they will too. And I pray they do.
Tamala, was there anything in this trial that stuck out to you? Obviously there were some differences, but watching it, was there anything that stuck out to you as to why we are talking about this right now?
Yeah, they didn't have a case.
But anything specific that you think tipped the jury over to the guilty on the reckless this trial versus what you witnessed in the first trial?
I think it's hard for the jury or any jury to convict an officer of murder. You know, we're talking about an officer, and we know how people view officers. But I think the evidence and the way that the prosecution team presented the evidence is what the jury based their decision upon. We have an overwhelming amount of physical evidence in Casey's case that just cannot be ignored. And in the murder of Casey, Jason Meade was very reckless. So.
And I'll add that two of the jurors that I spoke to after the first trial indicated that had they been allowed to come to a decision separately on the charges, if you recall, they were instructed that it was pretty much all or nothing. They believed that they could have come to a guilty verdict on reckless in the first trial.
Tim, I know this doesn't bring Casey back, but I wonder what does the verdict, how does it, what does it do for you and your family?
It gives us closure, it gives us peace, and now I'm sure I speak for my family when I say this. I know now Casey can rest. You know, we've been fighting for 5.5 years, and Casey sees his family fighting. He knows the stress, he knows the pain, he knows the heartache. And now not only can we try to find peace and finally start truly grieving, my baby can rest.
So what happens for you now? How do you move forward after today?
No, I guess it's one day at a time.
If you could talk to Casey, I'm sure you're a praying woman, I'm sure you are. What are you saying to him?
We did it, baby. He's in jail. We wanted him in jail December 4th of 2020. So it's been a long roller coaster ride of him not being in jail for what he did to Casey. He's in jail. We can go home tonight and I can lay down and I can sleep comfortably knowing he's in jail.
Anything else you guys want to add?
You know, I'll say on behalf of this family, I just commend them on their strength through this process because it has been a long process, as you all know, experienced several times over, and it's been difficult for them. And so I commend them on their strength. I commend the special prosecutors for their work in bringing this case because they have put a lot of effort into it, a lot of dedication, a lot of strategy. And it's not easy to convict a police officer of any charge. and also just the investigation in itself. I think that, you know, it's been in some circles framed as a political prosecution, and it's not that. It's actually been a very bipartisan effort from day one. You know, from the DOJ and the FBI getting involved and the dignity that they showed this family in those moments. It's all been very, very impactful. And so I do just want to add, because my grandfather passed away on Tuesday, and you know, it was not lost on me that happened, because almost 60 years to the day, May 10th, 1966, he was actually shot and left for dead by a police officer in Dayton. And he was placed in the back of a police cruiser and left for dead. And it took a supervisor to come on the scene and to say, can you walk? And to escort him to the hospital. And in the hospital, he was again denied treatment. And it took a nurse who slipped our relative phone number to a doctor who came in and performed surgery on him and saved his life. And it took the non-shooting officer who actually told the truth. And the allegations against my grandfather were dropped, and that officer was terminated. And my grandfather always showed that grace and appreciation for that supervisor and for that non-shooting officer that told the truth. That non-shooting officer was later ostracized by the police department, and he committed suicide. And so for as much as I thought about my grandfather in the past few days, I thought a lot about that officer, O.J. Bradley, that committed suicide because of how he was ostracized for doing the right thing. And I think this has been framed many times over as anti-police or as, you know, an attack against police officers. And I just want to honor my grandfather. I want to honor Casey, who has been pictured with police officers. I want to honor this family and all of us who actually support and appreciate police officers. Jason Meade is one individual who is charged and convicted criminally, but he is not who police officers are. And it should not be framed as that. You know, this should not be a divisive moment. It should be an opportunity to heal. And that's what a conviction does. That's what accountability, that's what being held accountable does for our community. And I just think that all of this is a very powerful moment. And, you know, I was gifted by Tamala and the family Casey's ashes right here in this bracelet. And I wore it today because I felt like it was, you know, fitting to do so. And so justice for Casey. We are very appreciative of the community that has supported. And let's just keep pushing, you know. Progress is our goal, and it's our guarantee. Absolutely. Any further questions? All right. Thank you.
Justice